The Fourth Guest. Prologue. Kyoto, with its labyrinth of ancient alleys, wooden machiya townhouses, and hidden shrines, has long been a magnet for travelers seeking old-world charm. Yet, in a lesser-known side street, so narrow you can almost touch both sides with your outstretched arms, something extraordinary awaits the chance wanderer. It was on such a street that I, Veronica de Rossi, found myself one late Wednesday afternoon in early spring. I am Italian, from a small coastal town near Naples, and arrived in Kyoto 2 weeks ago. I had come for the usual reasons at first: the spectacular cherry blossoms, the temples and shrines, and the gentle quietude that only Japan's ancient capital could offer. Yet to my surprise, I discovered something far beyond the typical tourist itinerary. Let me share how it began. The alley and the lantern. I had spent the day exploring small shops around Gion and then made my way to the edge of a quiet neighborhood whose name I never fully caught. My phone had died earlier after a busy day of photo taking, so I walked aimlessly, trusting my feet to guide me. The light was dimming fast, that transitional glow between afternoon and evening, and the air smelled faintly of roasted tea leaves and spring blossoms. Down a narrow alleyway, I saw a single paper lantern. It was suspended from an unmarked wooden door that looked as old as the city itself. The lantern's soft orange glow shimmered against the worn surface, and though the sign was in Japanese, the stylized script was not one I recognized. I stared for a moment, entranced by how the lantern's glow contrasted with the dusky sky above. There was no line of customers, no chatter, no sign of an establishment, just the silent invitation of that lantern. Call it curiosity, call it fate, but something urged me to approach and knock. I had read about secret omakase restaurants, advanced reservations, and months-long waiting lists, so I assumed I would be turned away at once. Yet I still stepped forward. The thick wooden door shifted slightly under my knuckles. A small panel slid open at eye level. A man's face, half-shadowed, peeked out. He studied me with quiet intensity. I spoke a tentative "sumimasen," excuse me, but he said nothing. After a few moments, he slid the door fully open and beckoned me inside. Inside, the mysterious entrance. I passed through a short corridor lit only by a row of tiny floor-level lamps. The corridor walls were bare but meticulously clean, with a near-breathable sense of serenity. My footsteps were hushed by thick tatami mats. Everything felt carefully orchestrated to hush the outside world and invite me into an entirely different realm. At the end of the corridor, I arrived in a small reception area, no larger than a modest living room. To my left, a faint hum of technology purred behind a decorative wooden lattice, and I caught a glimpse of digital equipment. On the right, a slender man in a black kimono stood behind a low podium. He had a shaved head and an austere yet gentle presence. Still not sure what place I had entered, I offered a polite bow. "Excuse me," I ventured in a mix of broken Japanese and English. "I'm not sure if I'm in the right place." The man blinked slowly, as if processing my words beyond their literal meaning, then gave a small smile. "You have arrived at the correct time," he said softly in English. "If you wish to dine tonight, you may. We have exactly one seat left." His statement puzzled me. 1 seat left? What did that mean? But I felt an immediate, unexplainable tug to stay. Perhaps it was the calmness in the air, or maybe the look of knowing on the man's face, or that intangible sense that destiny was nudging me. "Thank you," I managed. "Yes, I would like to dine." He motioned for me to follow him. Through a side door, we stepped into a space that seemed simultaneously ancient and futuristic. The dining area was minimalistic, with 4 low tables spaced generously so that each guest might feel as though they had a private corner. From the ceiling descended subtle projectors, the kind you might see in high-end digital art installations. And though the atmosphere was quiet, I could faintly hear the hush of some ambient, meditative music that seemed to come from all directions at once. It was there I noticed something that floored me. 3 people already seated, each at their own table. Not long, communal counters as one might expect in Japan, but 4 distinct personal settings. 3 seats were occupied, and the fourth, mine apparently, awaited. Meeting the other diners. I took a cautious step forward and saw the first 3 diners turn to look at me. The first was a slender man with dusky skin, perhaps in his late 20s. He wore a simple white shirt under a loose jacket and had an aura of gentle curiosity in his eyes. Something about him suggested India, maybe the subtle accent I would soon learn of, or the warm undertones in his voice. Next was a petite woman dressed in a floral blouse, her straight black hair neatly tied back. Her face bore a soft kindness, and I detected the faint melodic rhythm of a Vietnamese accent when she greeted me with a polite nod. Then there was a Japanese man, somewhat older, perhaps in his 40s, wearing a neat button-down shirt. He was from Kyoto, I presumed, for he already exuded the calmness and humility I often encountered in local residents. He offered the tiniest bow, and I quickly returned it. I approached my seat with self-conscious caution. Each table was set with a single wooden tray, upon which lay an array of carefully chosen utensils. But these were not the standard utensils you'd find in an ordinary restaurant. No, each table's utensils were unique, a mix of chopsticks, wooden spoons, or elegantly crafted ceramic implements. On my tray lay a single pair of dark bamboo chopsticks and a small, shallow spoon carved from what looked like sandalwood. I wondered at the arrangement, and the Indian man caught my gaze, offering a friendly smile. He introduced himself quietly. "Namaste, I'm Ajay," he said in English. "I came in here by chance as well." The Vietnamese woman also spoke in English. "My name is Lan," she said softly. I wandered in, not knowing what to expect. She gave a gentle laugh that broke some of the tension in the room. The Japanese man spoke last, in calm, measured English. "My name is Kenji. I am from Kyoto, but I had never heard of this place. Not until—" He paused as if the rest of the sentence was unimportant or implied. Instead, he finished with a faint smile. "Yoroshiku onegai shimasu." I introduced myself. "I'm Veronica, from Italy." I paused, feeling the weight of the question that lingered in the air for all of us. "So, does anyone know what kind of restaurant this is?" We exchanged mild shrugs and uncertain looks. That was the moment the hush was broken by a gentle chime. It emanated from some hidden speaker, reminiscent of temple bells. The lighting in the room shifted. Soft overhead fixtures dimmed, and subtle glowing patterns began to dance along the walls. Above us, the same patterns swirled across the ceiling in fluid shapes, almost like a slow, mesmerizing kaleidoscope. Then came a voice, soft but clear, from behind a wooden partition at the far side of the room. "Welcome. I am the chef. Tonight, you 4 shall share in a 6-course meal that transcends the ordinary." His English was impeccable, tinged with a melodic accent that defied easy placement, neither purely Japanese nor Western, but something in between. "I believe that food is more than nourishment," the voice continued. "It is art, it is communion, it is energy. We will explore taste in synergy with music, visuals, and your own readiness to receive. Tonight's menu is strictly vegan and sustainable, yet it shall be more abundant than you imagine. Let your minds and hearts be open." We all looked at each other, uncertain yet intrigued. The voice fell silent, and from behind the partition 4 individuals emerged, each clad in simple black attire. These, presumably, were the servers, yet there was something uncanny about them. They moved in synchronous steps, as though guided by a singular intelligence. Each server positioned themselves behind one of us, standing in attentive stillness, as if awaiting an unspoken cue. The lights dimmed further, and the swirling patterns across the walls shifted into a new motif, delicate lines reminiscent of blossoming flowers, but tinted in gold and lavender. A gentle flute melody began to play. I felt a soft breeze, though from where, I couldn't tell. The entire environment was curated to envelop our senses. Thus began our fateful dinner. Little did I know how deeply this meal and the strangers around me would affect my life. That night, in a secluded corner of Kyoto, an unfolding mystery about the interconnectedness of all things began to reveal itself. Taste by taste, note by note, image by image. Episode 1. The First Course. Awakening. Approximately 3,500 words. A delicate bamboo chime signaled the official start of the first course. My server, a graceful woman with impossibly serene eyes, stepped forward and placed a small ceramic bowl on my wooden tray. As she set it down, she bowed slightly, whispering a soft phrase in Japanese. Itadakimasu, the traditional expression of gratitude before a meal. I returned her bow out of respect. Presentation of the dish. In the bowl lay a tiny arrangement of fresh vegetables, intricately carved into floral shapes. The colors were astonishingly vibrant: bright green cucumber blossoms, paper-thin daikon radish fashioned into translucent petals, and a sprinkling of purple edible flowers. Beneath them, I noticed a small cluster of microgreens and a drizzle of something golden, perhaps a yuzu-infused oil. It seemed more like a piece of art than a salad, almost too beautiful to disturb with utensils. Yet, I did have to eat. I glanced around at the others. AJ had a similar bowl, but the vegetables carved for him included an intricate lotus motif, suggesting the chef tailored each dish to the individual in subtle ways. Lan's bowl had a delicate pattern of Vietnamese herbs that I recognized from my travels: Thai basil, culantro, maybe even a hint of mint. Kenji's bowl was more austere in color palette, largely white and green vegetables with a single bright red shiso leaf in the center. I picked up my bamboo chopsticks, mindful of the moment. As soon as I did, the music in the background evolved from the solitary flute to a gentle layering of strings, a soft koto perhaps, blending with the flute in an ethereal harmony. The walls and ceiling responded likewise, with blossoms gently swaying across the digital tapestry, mimicking the swirl of springtime breezes. In that moment, a wave of calm, almost reverence, descended upon me. I took my first bite. The daikon radish had a surprising sweetness, balanced by a hint of tartness from the yuzu oil. I chewed slowly, savoring the interplay of flavors, and a strange warmth spread through my chest, as if I was awakened to a heightened sense of taste. It was as if all my senses were converging: the texture of the vegetables, the melodic music, the soft golden lights shifting on the walls, the subtle perfume of the herbs. Conversation sparks. When we were halfway through this course, the Vietnamese woman, Lan, cleared her throat gently. "This is different," she said, her voice quiet but curious. "I've never experienced a meal that is so coordinated with art and music." Kenji nodded. "It's like a tea ceremony, but taken further. Everything about it has an intention." AJ joined in. "I was in the Himalayas before coming to Japan, studying yoga and meditation. This reminds me of certain practices that merge the senses to reach a deeper understanding of the self." I looked up from my bowl, drawn by the mention of his spiritual pursuits. Deeper understanding through the senses. That's an interesting concept. I've studied some mindfulness back home in Italy, but this is the first time I've ever felt it so orchestrated. Lan nodded, adding, "It is reminiscent of some ancient Vietnamese culinary traditions, where certain families would pair seasonal dishes with particular folk songs. But that's quite rare these days. This is on a whole other level." We paused, each reflecting on how we'd found ourselves here. Even though the meal was a quiet, meditative affair, we felt an urge to connect with each other. Finally, I asked the question we all must have been wondering. "How did you all discover this place? I quite literally just stumbled upon the lantern outside." AJ wiped his mouth with a small linen napkin embroidered with subtle bamboo patterns. "I was lost," he admitted. "I was looking for a small meditation hall nearby. I had an address, but I must have taken a wrong turn. I saw the lantern and felt drawn to it." He chuckled. "Next thing I knew, the host at the front said there was a spot for me, like it was meant to be." Lan offered her story. "I was exploring a local temple, and I slipped out a side exit. Found myself in a labyrinth of tiny streets. I was about to turn back when something, I don't know, it was like an intuition. It pulled me down the alley, and I arrived here." Her dark eyes shone with a mixture of puzzlement and fascination. Kenji shrugged lightly. "I am a Kyoto native, yet I've never heard of this place. I was searching for a tea shop that I'd visited as a child. Couldn't find it, so I wandered for hours. Suddenly I recognized the street, though I swear it wasn't here before, and I saw the lantern. It felt ephemeral. I walked in. They welcomed me, and now here I am." AJ let out a small laugh. "It seems none of us set out to find this place. But here we are, the four of us, on a Wednesday night, sharing a meal so carefully choreographed." We nodded in agreement. There was something uncanny about it all, as though we were pawns in a cosmic game of serendipity. The server's strange auras. While we chatted, I noticed my server standing just behind me, absolutely still. I turned slightly to see if she might refill my water or remove my dish, but her gaze was fixed forward in a serene, almost trance-like state. There was no impatience, no rush. It felt as if they only moved when some internal silent bell chimed in their minds. When each of us finished the last bite of the first course, we placed our chopsticks across the bowl's rim. Almost on cue, the four servers stepped forward in a synchronized motion, lifted the bowls, and replaced them with a small, warm hand towel. Their movements were so perfectly timed that it reminded me of dancers in a carefully rehearsed performance. My server then gave a slight bow and, without a word, retreated behind the partition. The others did the same. We were left alone again, with only the lingering music and the gentle swirl of lights. AJ gazed after the departing servers, a curious expression on his face. "They have a different energy about them, don't they?" he mused. Lan nodded. "Yes, it's as if they're connected somehow. Or maybe they're deeply trained in some ritualistic approach to hospitality." Kenji sipped from his water. "I've been to high-end kaiseki restaurants where everything is choreographed, but even those pale compared to this level of synchronization. And to think we are only 4 diners." The music began to fade, replaced by the light tapping of what sounded like raindrops. The digital blossoms on the walls dissolved into shimmering droplets as though each flower had transformed into falling water. A hush settled over us, a prelude to the second course. But before that next course arrived, we found ourselves lulled into an unexpected conversation, each of us beginning to open up more than typical strangers at a dining table. A brief philosophical interlude. "Forgive me if I'm too forward," Lan began, fiddling with the embroidered edge of her napkin. "But do any of you sense that this is more than just a restaurant?" Kenji exchanged a look with us. "I do, though I can't quite articulate it. There's a tranquility here that reminds me of Zen temples, and yet it's also strangely futuristic with the digital art. Old meets new." I nodded, swirling my glass of water. "It feels like stepping into a different plane of reality. If someone told me this place existed in a dream, I wouldn't be surprised." AJ placed his hands in a meditative posture briefly. In many traditions, Hindu, Buddhist, even Sufi mysticism, there's the idea that reality can be transcended through the senses if approached with the right awareness. This environment is meticulously designed to sharpen our senses. The synergy of taste, sight, sound. It might be unlocking something. It's as though we're being guided into a collective meditation. Lan gave a soft laugh. "That might be the best explanation I've heard yet. It certainly beats a normal dinner, that's for sure." It was a strangely comforting exchange. We'd known each other mere moments, yet it felt as if we had stepped onto a shared path that had existed long before our meeting. Maybe it was the hush of the environment, or perhaps there really was an otherworldly aura about the place. Just then, another soft chime rang, signifying the arrival of the next course. We grew quiet, letting our curiosity build. Little did we know how each successive course would continue to peel away layers of the mundane, revealing the deeper tapestry beneath.